I hope that He uses you guys, but we know and trust that He has a plan and a purpose for what we're doing. But also, as you're listening to this, thinking of creative ways that you can volunteer, how you can help. What are your gift sets that we can leverage for kingdom purposes in other areas all the way across the world? And so again, financially, yes, one time, recurring, all those things. But also thinking away, hey, what gift sets are we missing? What ideas do y'all have that we don't have? We're always looking for help and benefit to where we can better further the kingdom across the world. So we're going to start with the video, and then Jessica's going to hop up here and get going. Please come sit down. You don't have to stand. You're already get uncomfortable. So just take a seat. I'll start bringing people's chairs wherever you're at. So.
For a few years. This city is where I first learned my way around the culture, the language, and I started to meet other Filipinos here who were so eager for people to know Jesus.
When the opportunity was presented to us to step up to become leaders here in the Rising, all I could think of at that time was gratefulness and thanksgiving to God. I have always longed for a place where I can spend my life sharing with people about God.
I was born and raised in the Higaonon tribe, so having the opportunity to serve in my home village and to my people is really a special blessing for me.
Spark for why everything else at the Rising exists. One thing that makes the Rising unique is the holistic approach we are able to have in the girls' lives and with their families. Yes, the girls come here to go to school, but because they live here in this home, we get to have life-on-life connection to them.
Sa gyud ka panalangin nga gihatag suporta sa among simbahan dili og salamat sa Ginoo kay nakadaghan ang kabatalunan uban sa ilang mga pamilya nga nakadungog sa pulong sa Ginoo.
It brings me comfort to know the staff goes to our village every week and that they also care about my family and our village. Through life groups, my mother and father have been able to know God and grow in their faith. Being part of the Rising helps us as a family to keep going and know that God loves us and has a good plan for my family. So I just pray, God, lead me to people who need you. If there are places or communities here where no one else has been able to reach yet, I'm willing and I want us to go to them. Raymond, who is on our staff now, his wife and my friend at the time, she said to me, you've got to come check out this village where I teach. I actually think it's exactly the type of place that you've been praying for. And so I visited and stayed in that village and at the church with Pastor George for a week. But I knew in my spirit that first day, this was it. God wanted to do something in this village.
I love the impact the Rising is making in these villages, and I am so thankful to be a part of this team. Even the scholars, their families, and the amazing pastors we partner with in the villages, they already love God, and that has made a real difference here over the years. I can't think of anywhere else I would rather be in my life right now.
Being a part of this ministry, I have seen God move and change lives. And I've even witnessed the power of God through healing, the sicknesses in our life group members.
In the village, every week I lead our men's life group. At first, I felt very inadequate because many of the men who come to Bible study are older than me. And they also knew me as a child because I grew up here. But through the rising, I was able to be trained and learn many new skills. And through that, God has helped me to grow and rise up to this task He has given to me.
I've been getting to know these women for many years now. The relationship I get to have with the mothers in the village is a mutual blessing for me. I get to share about God with them every week in our life groups. But they show me so much too about being resilient and praising God. I really admire their faith. I feel like I can especially relate to their longings and prayers and the sacrifices they make for their children.
In the early years, the majority of our outreach was with kids, so we knew most of the girls in the village. There was a little girl early on, she was 9 years old. And one week she was with us at Kids Club, and then the following week I asked the other kids where she was. And they told me that she had gotten married, and she was living more than 8 hours away from her village. My heart stopped when I heard it, and I remember just talking to God the whole ride home and asking Him to show me any way that He could help other girls like her. To their daughters going to school instead of getting married back then. And what I've found since then is that these girls in the village really want to learn and really want to succeed in school. They just needed an opportunity and a few people who would believe in them and shine a light on the path ahead to show them the way.
This month, I will be the first person in my family to graduate from senior high school, and I am so excited and happy that my parents will get to be here to see that happen. I know that they are proud of me.
We have great Filipino leaders here now leading the Rising as we move into a new decade of ministry. And my hope and prayer for the next 10 years of the Rising is that we would start to see these first generation disciples at House of Hope and in the life groups start to rise up and lead others towards the same life that they found here. I'm praying for God to provide us land and a bigger space close to the city for House of Hope and the scholars to grow through college.
It's really nothing too hard for God or impossible for Him. If you ask us what's in our hearts, we're really praying and believing God for us to be able to purchase land and build a home for the scholars closer to the universities. And in the villages, we're planning to start a sustainable livelihood projects.
There have been far more really hard moments in these first 10 years of ministry than I ever knew were coming back then. But there has also been far more of God. He's been in it with us every day. He brings hope. He tears down obstacles. He works real miracles. I've seen Him make a way, heal sicknesses in our friends, save families, deliver people from evil, and change so many lives during these years. What He started here at the Rising is good, and I can't wait to see all of it.
Maybe close that. Okay, thank you guys for being here, and thank you, Aaron. Where's Aaron and Jake? There's Jake. Where's Aaron? Outside with the kids, maybe?
There's in the back.
Okay. Well, thank you. Where?
Here.
Okay, Aaron, hi, Aaron. This is their house. They have given us this for the evening. So thank you so much for hosting. We really appreciate it. They're our friends from church. And yeah, we're just really grateful that they're here. Go by first page. Sit down. Okay. Excuse me. All right, I'm Jessica and I'm pregnant. I'm doing about 4 weeks. And that's exciting. So I'm the executive director along with Parker for TRIM, the Rising International Ministry. That's what that stands for. So if I say TRIM, I'm saying the Rising International Ministries. It's just kind of short. If it's scraped, it's his fault, not my fault. Thank you, Logan. We're gonna we just went over what's kind of gone on in the past. That was Leah. She's one of my very best friends. She's the person who started this organization. She lived overseas in the Philippines for 10 years, creating what is, and now she's home living in, I say home, she's kind of starting an American life. She's starting a life because she went there right out of college. And so she is in Colorado, she has her first real job, first job in America, and just trying to figure things out. And so we're excited for her, but we are also more excited, honestly, to carry out what she started. So, before that, I volunteered with the Rising since it became official in 2019 as the finance coordinator. She asked me, and I said, sure, whatever you need, let me help. And so, like we just said, this is the last 10. Now we're going to talk about kind of what's been accomplished after only 3 years. I love the fans on, but this paper's just below. So just to remind you, after 3 years, this is kind of what we still have to do and what we've accomplished, and that's what I'm about to go over. Back in 2021, we created a looking ahead 10-year vision that contains 5 goals that we wanted to accomplish by 2031. Tonight, I will quickly go over where the 3 years, where we are in 3 years, and we'll go from there. Goal number 1, hire and train and empower local Filipino believers to lead TRIM and reach their own people for Christ. That was a goal that we hope to have by 2031, and we've actually accomplished that already. Right now, we have no American. Oh man, guys! Oh, that's supposed to be a slap. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this one. We need to see this one. Okay, that is accomplished. We've done this. There is only a Filipino team there right now. 100% Filipino led. We have a staff of 8. Hopefully one day we'll have 11. They all receive competitive salaries that provide for their family and medical benefits, holiday pay, as well as paid time off. This is something that we're incredibly proud of, but also realize this could never have happened without the stateside donors. Goal number 2, graduate young women leaders who love the Lord with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. And we've actually had 8 out of the 10 scholars graduate from the city high school through our ministry, which is something that is so rare in the villages. For the 2024 school year, for example, in the village where they would have gone to school, there's 210 kids enrolled in their high school. This past May, only 8 girls graduated. So that's how abnormal it is for girls to graduate in the village. So having 8 graduates out of the 10 that we've had in our House of Hope, that's a huge, huge accomplishment to us. Currently, we have 6 scholars living in the House of Hope, but we hope to one day have 12. There have been seasons where we've had more, but there are 2 scholars who were just not interested in seeking college education through the Rising. These were not failures to us, though. These girls absolutely accomplished their goals of finishing high school in the city. Now, knowing how to read, write, and knowing God created them for a purpose and that He has plans for them back in their village. Up until 2023, most of our scholars were in high school. So we had an educational specialist on staff who could tutor the scholars anytime for any high school subject. But as they all got in college, which all 6 of them currently are in college now, that's different. Our educational specialists couldn't just tutor any subject. So when we noticed this, we talked about it while we were there, and then we talked about it as a board here. We felt like it was important that we commit to provide more academic resources to keep these girls from falling behind in their classes. So we actually hired professional tutors for courses like college physics, chemistry, electrical engineering. This way, when the girls struggled, they knew they had someone who could help. And these are some of the courses that they take. They're real courses that are college and difficult. And so this was a decision that we made during the second semester of the past school year with extra funds we'd raised from last year. Again, another financial decision we could not have made without stateside donors trusting we'd use any surplus wisely. I forgot to put my chip. Let's check. We're still going through college, so we haven't had any college graduates, but we have had quite a few high school graduates, and that's really exciting to us. Next one, reach every home in the village with the gospel message. This is in progress, so I'm gonna put the in progress. Okay, go. Parker was gonna be my slapper, but I said I could do it. Okay. So we started out with 10 people showing up for our life groups in one village, which felt like a success at the time. Life groups were all over the video that we just watched. It's where our staff shares a Bible lesson, relevant verses are memorized for that lesson, and life is shared between our 5 groups. This is a place where women share their individual struggles, and they pray for each other while carrying one another's burdens. If a mother comes to know Christ, often her family will follow her influence. This is when the men's groups are empowered to trust in God with all their heart, and through Him and only Him, all things can be made new. So when a man's heart is turned to Christ and he's equipped to better provide and care for his family, it really creates a positive ripple effect across the entire community. And this is when the children are being discipled by our trim team, who reminds them weekly that they are beautifully and wonderfully made. And God has a plan for their lives. Even when it feels like He's not present, He is, and He wants us to call on Him when we're lonely or tired or weak. These kids bring so much life to the village, and our team recognizes the enormous responsibility of training them up well. Since Trim began, we've gone from 10 life group members to over 200 members who attend weekly. We're getting closer to reaching our goal, but there's actually 469 families in both of the villages that we serve. So we realize there's a lot more work to be done. But Parker has a little bit to talk about that in a second, what our plan is to reach more. So we do have an idea. Goal number 4, disciple small groups of 5 to 10 men and women, leaders in the village, who will be able to then teach others. This is another in progress. In case you forget, it's in progress. In the next 6 years, we hope to disciple small groups of 5 to 10 men and women leaders to the village who will then be able to teach others. We have attempted this in many ways, but we don't know that we've found the best approach for this yet. The people we serve come from the Higo-Onan tribe, so choosing Christian leaders and a group where leaders are already in place can cause conflict between the tribal members. As a believer, we know the kingdom of God doesn't align with earthly hierarchy, but that's just not the way most of the world works. So we have a hunch, and we're praying that through this clean water initiative that Parker is going to talk about in a second, the right leaders will kind of rise to the occasion, and others will naturally follow. So stay tuned, but we're very hopeful for those last two. Next one. Provide community development programs in the village that lower infant mortality rates, increase literacy, and create sustainable livelihoods. This is a check and in progress. Okay, we're gonna do both.
Hybrid.
So, not like that. That's good. That's hard. Okay. Through our stateside partners, we have been able to provide prenatal and postnatal care for both young and old pregnant moms and their infants over the past decade, and we have no plans to back down in that area. We still hold literacy classes during different seasons of the year for the women and agricultural classes for the men. And we consider both of those livelihood programs to be a success. Our literacy classes were birthed out of a desire to get a Bible into the hands of every family. We longed for the women we sit with in Bible study every week to be able to leave the circle and continue learning and reading God's word at home, by themselves or with their kids. But we knew this could never be possible until they knew how to read. So we started meeting weekly before Bible study and practice phonetics and handwriting. And slowly, as they learn and become more confident in their abilities, they start to smile more and stand a little taller. And we are excited for what that means in the future as we strive to see homes and families saturated with the truth of God's word. We haven't mastered the agricultural side of this yet for the men, but we believe that through, again, this Clean Water Initiative, God is going to move more men in the village in ways that we haven't been able to yet. That's our prayer, at least. So, as you can see, God is working through the Rising, both stateside and the Philippines, and we are inviting you to be a part of what's to come. We have an ask today, and Parker will talk about that in a second, but to be honest, we are not a ministry who always has an ask. We always have a prayer that we have enough kids who will show up to the activities so that they function properly, enough food for the families that show up to our weekly life groups, enough resources for the scholars to fill in the gaps between their village education and the city education, enough staff, enough salary to pay the staff. We've always prayed for enough, and since the Rising officially began, we have seen God provide in abundant ways. One clear example is when we were able to smoothly and confidently purchase the supplies necessary to feed the increase in life group members and their family every week without hesitation. This meal is a meal both villages look forward to weekly, and it's because our stateside donors that we can commit to doing this. Be it 10 people or 600 people, God has made a way. In the seasons of surplus, it is in the seasons of surplus that we're allowed a bit more freedom and with how we dream in the future for the Rising. But realistically, that surplus is not always there. There have been seasons where what we bring in monthly is less than what we put out. But we're prepared for those months like this, for months like this. It's important for you to know that we are clearly not a $1 million ministry, nor do we anticipate ever becoming that. Our ministry budget in 2023 was $120,000, and through our stateside partners, we were able to bring in $150,000, giving us a $30,000 surplus. For 2024, with this Clean Water Initiative added, all of our scholars in upper level classes in college, our life group members expected to increase, our budget has risen to $185,000, and we're expecting $170,000. Currently, we're not expected to meet the approved budget for 2024, but again, we have had surplus in the past, and we have a bit of it now, so we have no problem dipping into that. Bringing in more than what our budget requires is ideal, but realistically, we'll have years like this one. But this year isn't over yet. So, if you're looking for a ministry to partner with and give regularly to, our history shows we really do steward this money well. So I'm asking that you consider the Rising. If a recurring donation isn't something you're drawn to, but you prefer participate through one-time donations or monetary or non-monetary, here are some creative ways that I've learned since being an AD how you can participate in organizations. I didn't grow up in the most philanthropic mindset, and so I just thought money was the only way. And I've learned there are really cool creative ways to get involved. So earlier this year, we had a Pee Wee baseball team in Houston collect bats and gloves to send to the Philippines for all the kids in the village to have their very first baseball game. That's cool. Super, super cool. In 2021, we had a check written from an elderly woman at a Baptist church who said she only wanted this money spent on sewing machines for the staff. And so we had for the scholars. So we had one staff member who knew how to sew, and she taught the others how to sew, and I think they were able to get 3 or 4 sewing machines. And this RJ actually learned to make her own dress, and these are just their costumes for their Christmas presentation they did in college. But that's cool, yes ma'am, we'll do that, only sewing machines. In 2022, we had a family in Houston who has been partners with the ministry for the past 5 years, actually providing vehicle for the Rising to safely get up and down the mountain, carrying the entire staff. This was something we did not know we needed until they suggested it, and we cannot imagine the last 2 years without it. Even with us being there, I can't imagine not having that. The same family has hosted 2 fundraising dinners the past 3 years, where we've brought in over $150,000 total from the dinners and this family's quarterly donation, this family specifically. We met this family through a Sunday school class that Leah spoke at back in 2020. They have been incredibly valuable to our ministry, allowing us the means to accomplish what we have over the past 4 years of partnering with them. Personally, Parker and myself visited our scholars and staff this past December for 8 days to see everything in action as stateside leaders. This is also when we realized the water they drank was creating so much sickness. So these trips feel more valuable to us than ever at the moment, actually. So this is something that sounds interesting to you and your entire family, kids as well. We've never hosted a short-term mission trip, but we are open to figuring out what that might look like over the next year or two. And in 2023, a church collected toiletries and school supplies for the scholars because, like other girls in the States, they need soap and shampoo and water, and that slide's not there. There it is. Yeah, those are toiletries and those are school supplies. I mean, just simple things that I just don't think about. In my mind, it's very this or that, and there's so many ways. And this is what Logan was saying, using your gifts and what you know of how to help. Please feel free to use your gifts and come up with your own creative ideas to partner with us. We love seeing what people come up with. And this is where I'll conclude my part. We hope that through the Rising, being the hands and feet in these villages and at the House of Hope, the love of Jesus will continue to captivate the hearts and minds of our scholars and their families for generations to come. I can't be certain of what partnering looks like for you, but please know that nothing is too small for this ministry. Now, Parker.
Good job,
You too. Thank you. We're going to take a break, but we've actually started a little later, so to get you guys out of here on time, we're going to go right into Parker. Hold on. What you doing? I said Bronson.
I'm actually going to get a drink before I start. Thank you. Speaking of which, that actually reminds me, the average American toilet is cleaner than the drinking water for 700 million people around the world. That's double the size of the US. Okay? Tens of thousands of those people are on this island that we've been talking about. So like Jessica said, our team has reached 200 individuals from our village, but there's actually 469 families with an average of 5.4 people per family. Food, basic health needs, and life groups is how we attracted the 200 participants that you saw we had at the beginning of 2024. But there are so many more families who either were not interested or we just haven't found yet in the village. When Jessica, Pierce, and I visited the villages this past December, it was incredible in so many ways. But something we noticed when they took us to this beautiful waterfall to swim and play in and frolic in was that this beautiful waterfall was also the place where there were people bathing, playing, doing their laundry, and washing their dishes. It didn't bother us much initially, but as we began walking back to their homes, we realized water came down the river that funneled into a pipe that poured into buckets that the village families would get their drinking water from. This seemed problematic, but the village seemed to think that they were lucky to live by a spring-fed waterfall, so we went with it and moved along. Upon further questioning, once we got back to the city, our staff member Raymond, the only tribal staff member, he is Igauan, he's from those villages, he did say that everybody always has gastrointestinal issues. Everybody always struggles with stomach issues. And that the schools would provide deworming medicine monthly to the children in class. But this was their normal. Honestly, this was just part of life for them. This was very alarming, but it seemed like such a huge feat for our ministry to take on. Once we got back to the States, we shared pictures with my family, and as we were going through them all, my dad, Doug Hull, who works for Texans on Mission, which is an organization based here in Dallas, flippantly asked if they had clean water. We knew they didn't, but because Raymond made it sound normal to them, we had somewhat embarrassingly normalized it in our minds as well. And this is precisely where God did his thing. So my dad, Doug, took note, and he mentioned the situation to Mitch Chapman, this fellow right here, at work. That's you, Mitch. At work the next day. Mitch is the water well drilling coordinator at Texans on Mission, formerly Texas Baptist Men, and he knew he had $18,000 worth of filters that he'd been waiting to share with the right ministry, but just hadn't come across that specific need yet. This is an endeavor that brings joy to our scholars' hearts. Sorry.
Back of it.
Huh?
I didn't put back on this.
Hold on. Oh, my bad. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Wow, the rough draft is not double sided. The rough draft is not double sided.
There, okay?
Wow, okay. A little disoriented. Mitch asked to meet with myself and Jessica, and after sharing what we experienced, Mitch felt he could be a huge help with providing the filters. But we needed another partner to guide us with administering them in the most effective way possible to 464 families across our 2 villages. Mitch connected us with Chris Beth, the founder and CEO of the Bucket Ministry,
Got pictures of you too,
who
Chris?
happens to be here tonight. Jessica and I met with Chris the following week. One thing led to another, and Chris agreed to partner, but we had to commit to doing it their way, which is not simply providing clean water, but providing clean water while also sharing the love of Jesus and the gospel with every family we encountered. So these are their 3 non-negotiables. Jesus will be proclaimed. Jesus will be proclaimed in all parts of the field processes. Data will be collected. Data will be collected in our mission mapping system. You can revisit these dashboards and these maps. They're 100% interactive. You can click the dots. You can see demographic information. You can see photos of the families that have received. It's incredible. I will go into it in a little bit. Jessica's telling me to stop for a second.
No. That's it.
Fortunately, their way was perfectly in line with the way that we would have wanted to do this. So from there, things moved rather quickly. Within 3 months, we had 2 Filipino staff members and 1 Filipino board member, and myself, in Kenya, in the largest urban slum in Africa, training under the Bucket Ministry's Kenyan team, fully Kenyan. The Filipinos were there for 30 days learning everything they could, from making initial contact with the families, recording all demographic information of who lives in the house, to connecting the barcodes and the filters with geo-tracking devices, showing the Bucket Ministry's IT team exactly where each filter is located and how many times that particular home has been followed up with. And I'll tell you a little bit about what that entails in a second. It's intense and perhaps a little confusing to explain right now, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have at the end. After all, it's a 30-day training. I'm going to show a quick video real quick detailing our experience there. It's only about a minute.
Habari. Habari za asubuhi.
That's Raymond from our team.
Good job. Thank you.
Since arriving home from Kenya, July 15th, Raymond, the staff member we have leading up this initiative in the villages, has already initiated contact with every single home in the village, explaining to them what
for us and for your glory, God. And it's your son's holy name we pray. Amen. Thank you all again. Y'all have a good night.